The fallout from WWE SummerSlam 2023 goes down tonight, as Monday Night Raw comes live from the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with the first show following the SummerSlam 2023 Premium Live event over the weekend. Cody Rhodes kicks off Raw. The American Nightmare emerges as the fans sing along with his theme song. Samantha Irvin introduces him and he finishes his walk to the ring in a suit as Cole talks about his impressive victory over Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. His music dies down and the fans immediately break out into loud "Cody! Cody!" chants. He soaks in the love and begins, as always, by saying, "So, Minneapolis, what do you want to talk about?" He says, "Let's talk about one of your own." He goes on to talk about the University of Minnesota's own, Brock Lesnar. He talks about having the honor, privilege and misery of standing across from Lesnar. He then says he couldn't imagine what would happen after their third bout. He asks us to take a look and shows the handshake and moment of respect they shared after the bout. Cody mentions talking to his mother about the shock of the moment he had with Brock. He says his mother told him, "Dummy, don't you realize what just happened? Brock Lesnar just acknowledged you." He says after SummerSlam he feels like he can beat anybody in the world. "Burn It Down" is the next thing we hear, and out comes Seth freaking Rollins to the other theme song WWE fans like to sing along with. The WWE World Heavyweight Champion emerges dressed to the nines as always. This time he's wearing big yellow boots instead of big red ones. After his music stops, he stands a couple of feet away from Rhodes and soaks in the wah-wahs from the WWE Universe. He then welcomes us to Monday Night Rollins. Cody smiles. Rollins says last time he came out to talk about the future of the title, Rhodes was the first person to come out and get in his face. He says, "Consider this returning the favor." Seth mentions Cody saying he feels like he can beat anyone in the world. He says, "Why don't we put that feeling to the test?" Before Cody can respond, the theme for the Judgment Day hits and out comes Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley. Finn Balor is noticeably absent. Priest tells Cody and Seth they are confused. He says they think they run Monday Night Raw. Rhea Ripley says they don't. She says the Judgment Day does. Priest says they think they control what happens with titles, and they don't. He says they do. More specifically, Senor Money in the Bank does. He then points out how they've got the best women's champion on the planet and the NXT North American champion. He says Dom is going to be defending his title on NXT tomorrow. He asks what they're going to be doing. Dom goes to speak and the fans loudly crap all over him, as always. Finn Balor appears out of nowhere from behind and attacks Rollins. Priest and Dom attack Cody. Sami Zayn's theme hits and out comes one half of the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions to even things up a bit. He helps Cody and Seth beat down the Judgment Day and run them off. Cody grabs a mic and says he's got a solution for all of this. He says there's 3 of them and 3 of us. How about tonight in Minneapolis we have a 6-man tag team match? The fans pop. That's how the opening segment wraps up. WWE Intercontinental Championship Eliminator, Ricochet vs. Chad Gable vs. Tommaso Ciampa vs. Matt Riddle. The bell sounds and we're officially off and running with our opening contest here on the post-SummerSlam episode of Raw. This is under Fatal 4-Way rules where the first person to get pinned ends the match and gives the person pinning him the win and the title shot at IC Champ Gunther. Fans immediately break out in "Gable! Gable!" chants as all 4 men start to go at it. Ricochet hits the ropes, but Riddle rolls him up. Gable rolls Riddle up and then Ciampa rolls him up. This continues and then all 4 jump up and do the pause and stare routine to let the fans cheer. Things build to a huge multi-person spot in the corner where Gable ends up triple suplexing the others off the ropes. We see a shot of Gunther with a big smile on his face watching on a monitor backstage. Gable gets Ciampa in an ankle lock while Riddle and Ricochet recover on the floor. Riddle hits a big kick to save Ciampa. He then powerbombs Gable for a close near fall. He takes out Ricochet but then turns into a big boot from Ciampa. Riddle fights back and hits a final flash knee to Ciampa. He sits him on the top rope and climbs up after him as fans chant "Bro! Bro!" He connects with a superplex. As soon as he does, Ricochet hits a shooting star press on Riddle for a close near fall. At the same time, Gable nearly pinned Ciampa. The fans break out into a loud "This is awesome" chant. We see some high spots to the floor and then Ciampa hits the Widow's Bell DDT off the ropes on Riddle. Ricochet slingshots into a big knee from Ciampa, who then hits a powerbomb onto his own knees for a close near fall. Riddle hits Broderick, but the follow-up pin is broken up by Gable. The fans start chanting for Gable again as all four men are down and slowly getting back to their feet. Ciampa hits a Fameasser, but then Gable hits his Chaos Theory for the pin-fall victory. With the win, the hometown Alpha Academy coach will advance to challenge Gunther for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Shinsuke Nakamura vs. Bronson Reed. The bell sounds and we're officially off and running with this one. The two circle each other and then lock up to get this one started. Reed muscles Nakamura into the ropes. Nakamura looks for a clean break. Reed gives it to him. The two stare each other down and then re-engage. Reed hits a big shoulder tackle that sends Nakamura down to the mat with authority. Reed then mocks Nakamura with his hand-waving "come on" gesture. This sets Nakamura off, who knees the crap out of Reed and takes him down to the mat. He blasts him with a big kick, but then runs into a stiff back elbow from the big boy. As the battle continues, Nakamura knocks Reed out to the floor. He heads out to the ringside area to continue the brawl, but Reed rolls back into the squared circle. Nakamura hits the ropes, but Reed scoops him up. Nakamura frees himself, but then Reed runs him over with a big splash. He then drops an enormous elbow on the chest of the Japanese legend. Bronson Reed launches Nakamura out to the floor. As Nakamura recovers, we finally head into our first commercial break of the evening. When we return from the break, we see Reed still dominating the action. He hits a running powerbomb for a close near fall. Reed hits his jagged edge slam for a close near fall attempt, however Nakamura kicks out to keep this one alive. Reed clotheslines Nakamura down and heads to the top rope for his tsunami finisher, but Nakamura avoids it. He hits his Kinshasa and then hits another one for the pin-fall victory. Becky Lynch addresses Trish Stratus, Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler come out. Now we head back to the ring as we hear the familiar sounds of Becky Lynch's theme song. As the man settles into the squared circle, we head to another commercial break. When we return from the break, we see highlights of Adam Pearce making the rematch between Trish and Becky, with Zoe Stark banned from ringside for next week. Lynch begins in the ring. The man has come back around to Minneapolis. She tells the lads in attendance that she is only a week away from finishing her beef with Trish. She calls it a match of the greatest of that generation versus the greatest of this generation. As she continues talking, the theme for Zoe Stark hits and out she comes by herself. She accuses Lynch of being scared of her. Lynch asks what Zoe is doing. She says she doesn't like to work for anything, she wants things to come easy, and that's why she aligned with Trish. Lynch tells Zoe she's playing second fiddle when she could be going after a championship. Zoe takes exception to being called second fiddle. She then talks about being amazing at what she does. She calls Becky jealous. She continues boasting how good she is until the theme for Shayna Baszler hits. Out comes the Queen of Spades with a black eye. Becky tells her she's looking rough. Shayna says she should see how Ronda Rousey looks tonight, but she won't because she beat her at SummerSlam and drove her out of WWE. The fans cheer. Shayna tells Zoe to say she's the baddest again with her out here. Becky eggs on a fight between the two and Adam Pearce makes it official. Shayna Baszler vs. Zoe Stark. From there, we head back into the ring where we see Baszler and Stark in our next match of the evening, which is in progress now. We see Becky Lynch watching on as she sips lemonade at ringside. Shayna gets Stark in an ankle lock early on, but Stark fights her way free and starts focusing her attack on the swollen shut eye of Baszler. Cole and Barrett talk on commentary about Baszler being the first person to win via submission against Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam. After Stark hits a big missile drop kick off the top rope on Baszler, she shouts to the booing crowd that she is the best. We see some more back and forth action, and then Baszler hits her finisher on Stark for the win. Otis vs Ludwig Kaiser. The bell sounds and we're officially off and running with our next match of the evening. Kaiser and Otis circle each other and then lock up as the fans chant Otis. Otis! The walking tree trunk backs the Imperium member in the corner. He gives him a clean break, but then Kaiser takes over with cheap shots. Otis ends up no-selling them to a roar from the crowd. He lets out a war cry, shoves Kaiser into the ropes and runs over him with a shoulder tackle before hoisting him up for a big slam. He goes for a spear in the corner, but Kaiser moves and Otis shoulder slams into the steel ring post. Kaiser takes over and settles into a comfortable offensive lead from there. Kaiser taunts Maxine at ringside, who pops up on the ring apron and gets in his face. Otis takes the distraction and uses it to his advantage, pushing Kaiser in the corner and unloading on him with a flurry of punches. He slams Kaiser into the opposing corner and splashes onto him with an avalanche. He then does his caterpillar/worm spot. Vinci hits the apron to stop him, but gets suplexed into the ring for his troubles. Gunther then hits a sneak attack on Otis from behind. Kaiser immediately follows up with the pin for the win. After the match, Imperium attack Otis until Chad Gable runs out to make the save. The Miz confronted by LA Knight. The Miz's theme hits as we return inside the Target Center. Out he comes in a suit. He makes his way to the ring as we head into another commercial break. When we return from the break and we are shown highlights from the Slim Jim Battle Royal at SummerSlam. Focus is shown to LA Knight throwing out the Miz and then winning. Miz appears live as we return back in the ring. Miz complains about being disrespected by LA Knight. He says Knight didn't introduce himself to him and shake his hand like you do when you respect a locker room leader like the Miz. He complains about being disrespected by the new crop of talent but is interrupted by LA Knight's theme. The crowd explodes as the megastar makes his way down to the ring. He then introduces himself with his "with everybody saying" catchphrase and extends his hand for a shake. Miz simply says no and says Knight doesn't deserve to shake his hand. He tells Knight that he's a flash in the pan. He says 5 months from now he won't be remembered. He calls him an Attitude Era fanboy cosplaying in his ring. The fans boo. The fans chant "tiny balls" at Miz. Knight says he doesn't have a problem with Miz. He tells him he doesn't want to make this personal, though. Miz says he takes his career very personal. Miz brags about the past 20 years of his career and asks what Knight has been doing. Knight says okay, so now it's personal. He tells Miz he's been making himself a badass for the last 20 years. He says meanwhile the company has been backing the wrong horses, including Miz. He says he's a thoroughbred. He tells Miz he's had a 20-year head start and still can't keep up. He tells Miz he only ever succeeded because he was safe. He says the line on Knight is they don't want to take a chance on him because he's a dangerous wild card. He says he's not to be messed with. That's the difference between the two of them. The Miz tells Knight he's not on his level. Knight says he's standing right here and isn't going anywhere. He dares Miz to prove him wrong. Miz takes his suit coat off. Knight drops his mic. The fans chant LA Knight. LA Knight. Miz picks his jacket up and then throws it in Knight's face and sneak attacks him. He goes for a skull-crushing finale but Knight counters and connects with his blunt force trauma finisher. He taunts Miz as he's laid out. His theme hits and he leaves to another big pop after an entertaining segment. The Viking Raiders vs. The New Day. The Viking Raiders and Valhalla are shown backstage. They talk about how they welcome battle with anyone. To the gods, they say to finish up a very brief backstage promo segment, the Viking Raiders in the ring as we wait to find out who will answer their open challenge. With that said, we hear the familiar sounds of the New Day's theme song. Out comes Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods to a huge pop. Michael Cole points out it has been months since we have seen them. Woods plays his trombone to a big pop. The bell sounds and we're officially off and running with this impromptu tag team tilt. Kicking things off for their respective teams are Eric and Woods. Woods jumps into the early offensive lead as the fans cheer him on. He tags in Kofi Kingston, and making his return from ankle surgery is the former WWE champion. Kingston hits a big splash for a close near fall attempt, but Eric kicks out. Woods tags back in and picks up where Kingston left off, taking it to Eric. The fans break out in a loud "New Day rocks" chant. Valhalla jumps on the ring apron and the distraction allows Eric to take over. He tags in Ivar, who hits a big splash off the top rope for a close near fall on Woods. Woods kicks out and we see Eric and Ivar begin to utilize frequent tags to keep a fresh man on Woods at all times. They keep him isolated in their half of the ring. Woods hits a tornado DDT out of the corner to slow down the Viking Raiders' momentum. Kingston gets the hot tag and helps the New Day shift the offensive momentum in their favor. Kofi hits a boom drop that lights the crowd on fire. He goes for Trouble in Paradise but doesn't get it. He does hit his SOS signature spot for a close near fall. Now we see Kingston hit his Trouble in Paradise. He tags in Woods, who hits a big top rope spot for the pinfall victory. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura vs. The Judgment Day. It's main event time. The Judgment Day theme hits and out comes the most dangerous faction on Raw. They make their way to the ring and then a big brawl breaks out between Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez and Candice LeRae. The bell sounds and we're officially off and running with our final match of the evening. Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor kick things off for their respective teams. Priest tags himself in before Balor can do anything. Priest and Balor argue and while they do, Dominic Mysterio tags himself in. Now Dom and Nakamura get after it, with the Japanese legend jumping into the early offensive lead. Priest pulls Dom out of the ring to save him after the initial exchanges don't go his way. With Priest and Balor working together as they double-team Nakamura, who has been kept isolated in the ring from the jump. The fans try and clap and cheer to rally behind the King of Strong Style as Priest works him over. Seth freakin' Rollins finally gets the hot tag. He hits the ring like a bat out of hell and starts shifting the offensive momentum into his team's favor. This doesn't last for long, as Priest and Balor end up double-teaming him and taking the fight out to the floor. Cody finally gets the hot tag. Cody comes into the ring like a man possessed. He begins hitting some of his trademark spots, such as a Cody cutter and a disaster kick, but his pin attempt is broken up. Other members of the team hit the ring but Cody handles them. As Cody is working over Balor, we see Rhea Ripley distract the official. During the distraction, Priest gets in some cheap shots until Sami Zayn runs down to fight him off. Rollins hits Balor with the Money in the Bank briefcase and then Cody connects with his Crossroads finisher for the pinfall victory. After the match, Cody and Seth have words off mic until Sami Zayn plays Peacemaker again. Seth then shakes Cody's hands and the two pose on the ropes in the corner as the crowd cheers. Out of nowhere, Shinsuke Nakamura decks Rollins with a Kinshasa. Cody looks shocked as he watches Nakamura walk off. Sami Zayn checks on Seth. Cody joins him and that's how this week's show goes off the air. Thanks for watching. Hit a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to our channel.